Señores, al parecer Donald Trump está pasando por una fase muy inusual de duelo. Y es que ha comenzado a culpar a los mismos jueces que él mismo ha nombrado por sus reveses legales. Tras una serie de derrotas contundentes en tribunales federales, el presidente ha decidido atacar no solo al sistema judicial, sino también a la organización que ayudó a seleccionar a esos magistrados. Hablamos de la Sociedad Federalista liderada por Leonard Leo. Pues bueno, en un giro autoritario, bastante predecible por cierto, Donald Trump quiere culpar a otros por su fracaso, negando cualquier tipo de responsabilidad con sus propias decisiones ilegales e inconstitucionales. Sean bienvenidos a Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Señores, hoy veremos cómo es que Donald Trump, bastante paranoico, se vuelve contra los propios jueces que él eligió. Así que los invito a que se queden hasta el final de este video porque veremos los detalles más interesantes. Pues bueno, señores, sobre este tema lo más curioso es que muchos de los jueces que han bloqueado las acciones más extremas de este gobierno de Trump fueron nombrados por él mismo durante su primer mandato. Y aunque en teoría son conservadores, ideológicamente, al parecer no están dispuestos a permitir que se violen las leyes o la Constitución para favorecerlo políticamente. Un ejemplo muy interesante y reciente es el caso ante el Tribunal Internacional del Comercio, donde hemos visto como 3 jueces, incluyendo uno que fue nombrado por Reagan y otro por Trump, coincidieron en que los aranceles impuestos unilateralmente son ilegales. Otro fallo similar fue el que ocurrió en Washington, donde jueces designados por Trump también lo cuestionaron. Incluso en Texas, jueces muy afines lo han frenado en temas migratorios. Veamos esto.
A federal court has blocked his tariffs on China and other countries, ruling that the president had overstepped his authority under the law. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce starts us off. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. And this is a massive blow to the president's trade war. For months, Trump has argued that the world is ripping America off, defiant in his executive authority to impose these staggering tariffs. But now a federal panel says the president is overstepping his authority and that his tariffs are illegal. Overnight, a staggering setback for President Trump's aggressive trade agenda. A panel of judges on the U.S. Court of International Trade blocking most of Trump's sweeping tariffs on China and other trading partners, determining that they are contrary to law. The move effectively bringing Trump's trade war to a screeching halt. In April, the president declared a national emergency to impose his so-called reciprocal tariffs on goods from every country that trades with the U.S. without seeking approval from Congress.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
As markets roiled, Trump defiant.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
But overnight, the federal panel ruling that the law does not authorize the president to use emergency powers to issue tariffs, and that his executive orders exceed any authority granted to the president. The judges appointed by Presidents Reagan, Obama, and Trump also blocking tariffs Trump imposed on China, Mexico, and Canada to combat fentanyl trafficking because they do not deal with the threats described in the president's order. The Trump administration overnight quick to appeal, the White House rebuking the court, saying it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency, adding the administration is committed to using every lever of executive power to address this crisis and restore American greatness. For weeks, the president's on-again, off-again tariffs have caused whiplash on Wall Street, sparking major sell-offs when he issues new threats and rallies when he pulls them back. In the Oval Office yesterday, Trump lashing out when a reporter asked about a new term for his turnarounds.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation.
The court has now given the administration 10 days to halt these tariffs, and the Justice Department is now appealing, setting up a legal fight that could soon reach the Supreme Court. George.
And Mary, the Washington Post is reporting that this Qatari plane deal, which the Defense Department had said had been finalized, actually hasn't gone through.
Yeah, despite those claims from the Defense Department, the Washington Post is now reporting that the U.S. and Qatar have not actually finalized a deal for the transfer of that $400 million luxury jet that Trump plans to use as the new Air Force One before being transferred to his presidential library. Now, according to the Post, Qatar still wants to clarify the terms of this deal, including making it clear that the transfer of this jet was initiated by the Trump administration. None of this, though, is expected to derail this deal. The plane's already in the U.S., but it is sure to continue and to spark those legal concerns about this transfer, George.
It's all about those legal challenges which have been brewing. Okay, Mary, thanks very much.
Y bueno, es que frente a estas derrotas, al parecer Trump no quiere reconocer su error. No admite que sus acciones son ilegales o antidemocráticas. En lugar de eso, apunta hacia adentro. Acusa a la sociedad federalista y a Leonard Leo, figuras claves en la sección de jueces conservadores. Los acusa de haber traicionado su agenda. Escuchen esto. Los nombré porque me dijeron que eran buenos, pero resultaron ser malos. Amigos, este patrón no es nuevo. Los movimientos autoritarios tienden a castigar primero a quienes consideran desleales dentro de su propio círculo. Es la táctica clásica. Si tú no estás completamente alineado a él, te conviertes en el blanco. Primero los legisladores republicanos que no siguen la línea y ahora jueces que aplican la ley sin excepciones. Esta dinámica no se limita solo al presidente, porque hasta sus propios asesores y los principales, ¿no?, lo repiten. Durante una entrevista en CNN, por ejemplo, Stephen Miller fue directamente cuestionado sobre cómo los jueces nombrados por Trump estaban fallando en su contra. Su respuesta, reveladora y absurda. Escuchen.
Is this administration committed to following the court rulings and the legal process?
We are committed to following and obeying the laws of the United States, and the president has complied with all court orders. Am I going to sit here today and say, for example, that if a district court judge ordered us to, say, take 1,000 troops from Iraq and move them to Afghanistan, that we would just do that? If a district court judge ordered us, for example, to reveal the secret location of a CIA base overseas to the entire world, and then all the CIA officers in that base would be murdered and killed, am I going to sit here today and engage in radical hypotheticals? This administration has religiously complied with even the most unlawful court orders, but it completely upends the constitutional system to have a single judge in Boston assert the same powers of the President of the United States is such an offense to democracy. And on this network, we heard the word democracy, democracy, democracy for God knows how many years during the Biden administration when they were trying to throw President Trump in jail, claiming somehow that was what democracy required, when in fact the Democrat Party has been waging war against democracy. They should be renamed the Communist Party, and district court judges that are trying to keep millions of illegal aliens here to steal our jobs, to steal our livelihoods, to steal our benefits. There's nothing more on track than talking about the fact that the constitutional crisis of our time are district court judges keeping illegal aliens on our soil who have no right to be here.
Y es que es un razonamiento circular y sin base. Si un juez falla contra Trump, automáticamente deja de ser conservador y pasa a ser un radical. Una lógica bastante peligrosa y que pone hasta en duda lo legítimo de toda institución judicial. Amigos, y esto es fácilmente comparable con regímenes autoritarios. Recordemos, los que purgan a sus seguidores más cercanos cuando simplemente no cumplen con las expectativas. Primero vas tras los tuyos, luego expandes la purga, y aunque no haya ejecuciones físicas, como en sistemas dictatoriales, sí hay ataques mediáticos, sí hay campañas de desprestigio y hay amenazas de remoción. Pues bueno, en este escenario Trump fácilmente no podría comenzar a nombrar nuevos jueces, y ya no por mérito, tampoco por experiencia, solo por lealtad incondicional, tal y como lo es todo su gabinete. Ya hemos visto a figuras como Linda Java, ¿no?, incluso abogados, no abogados, como posibles candidatos a cargos judiciales. Una idea que, aunque suena absurda, yo creo que no estaría fuera de lugar en un régimen que prioriza la fidelidad sobre, pues, la competencia técnica. Pero bueno, señores, ahora pasemos al siguiente tema porque Musk fácilmente podría estar arrepintiéndose de su tiempo en la Casa Blanca. Hay que hablar, ¿no?, de este polémico paso de Elon Musk por el gobierno de Trump y cómo su salida de esta administración ha sido envuelta en escándalos, en bastante caos y una defensa incondicional y muy preocupante, por cierto, de Donald Trump. Lo que está sucediendo con este departamento, ¿no?, esta agencia Dodge, supuestamente creada para mejorar, para dar eficiencia al gobierno. Y bueno, para muchos, que acabó siendo un desastre, debería de hacernos reflexionar seriamente sobre los estándares éticos de quienes lideran el gobierno. Quiero que me acompañen a ver esta nota y luego lo analizamos. Escuchen.
We begin with the final day on the job in the Trump administration for Elon Musk. The billionaire who once referred to himself as the first buddy got an Oval Office send-off yesterday that didn't sound very final.
Elon's really not leaving. He's going to be back and forth, I think. I have a feeling. It's his baby, and I think he's going to be doing a lot of things.
I expect to remain a friend and an advisor, and certainly if there's anything the president wants me to do, I'm at the president's service.
Friend and advisor, Musk insisted that the work of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, would continue even with him out of the picture. But his White House exit was overshadowed by bombshell reporting from the New York Times that raised questions about his behavior during the campaign last year. The Times reported that as Musk became one of Donald Trump's allies, he was also using drugs far more intensely than previously known, according to people familiar with his activities. NBC News has not independently verified the reporting, and the Times notes it's not clear whether Musk's alleged drug use continued while he was working with DOGE. Quote, Mr. Musk's drug consumption went well beyond occasional use. He told people he was taking so much ketamine, a powerful anesthetic, that it was affecting his bladder, a known effect of chronic use. He took ecstasy and psychedelic mushrooms. And he traveled with a daily medication box that held about 20 pills, including ones with the markings of the stimulant Adderall, according to a photo of the box and people who have seen it. Mr. Musk had been using ketamine often, sometimes daily, and mixing it with other drugs, according to people familiar with his consumption. The line between medical use and recreation was blurry, troubling some people close to him. Now, Musk has previously acknowledged being prescribed ketamine to address his mental health. Late last night, as he returned from Pennsylvania, President Trump was asked about the report.
Were you aware of Elon Musk's regular drug use?
No, I wasn't. I think he's fantastic. I think Elon is a fantastic guy. And
are you troubled by these reports?
I'm not troubled by anything with Elon. I think he's fantastic. Did a great job. And, you know, DOGE continues, and by the time it's finished, we'll have numbers that'll knock your socks off. It's going to be, he did a fantastic job, and he didn't need it. He didn't need to do it.
Not really answering the question there, but joining us now, Eugene Robinson, the OG Eugene, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and MSNBC political analyst, and Sam Stein, managing editor for The Bulwark and an MSNBC contributor. Also the OG Sam Stein.
Probably not.
Just one of them. You know, Eugene, I want to start with you because, you know, there's a question to whether or not he's actually distancing himself because his businesses are bad or going, you know, there's been that impact. He obviously is done being a special government employee, but he's not going anywhere. So what was the impact of Elon Musk's 130 days as a special government employee?
You know, chaos, ruin, destruction. You know, there's a lot of impact. You know, I live here in the Washington area. There's a huge impact. I talk to my neighbors and you know, who either work for the government or used to work for the government or had government contracts or whatever. So it was a very huge impact on the administration, the bureaucracy of the federal government. To no apparent end in a lot of ways. I mean, to no good end in a lot of ways. But he definitely, you know, came in and he broke things and moved fast. And he didn't build anything reasonable in their wake, but he broke things.
Yeah, Sam, can you think of one deliverable, one concrete accomplishment that Doge has that Elon can lay claim to that made government more efficient and effective? Because I think there was a lot of leeway at the very beginning. Americans approved of him coming in. They, obviously he has a great record as an entrepreneur and engineer, and he had an opportunity, but did he squander the moment?
I'm sure there's something technical or clerical that Doge will have done in the end. Maybe it's streamlining some sort of internal communication system at the VA, or figuring something out that probably antiquated IT that really did need updating, and which Doge probably would have been really good at. But in the end, that's incredibly overshadowed by the damage that he left in his wake. And Eugene's right, it's measured in the terms of people who were fired from their jobs in and around this town, government services that will be disrupted. But I can't get over, I think it was Bill Gates, might have been someone else, saying essentially what, for me, is the most memorable part of it, which is that the world's richest man spent a couple weeks destroying the lives of the world's poorest children. And what happened to USAID, which was his first real target, we will see the ramifications of that for decades. We have seen a real retrenchment in global leadership from the U.S. and also in terms of humanitarian aid that we offer people, and that will result in hundreds of thousands of deaths around the world. And I don't think we should sugarcoat that at all.
Deaths and increasing influence by China, which is filling the vacuum in some places. The one thing, you're absolutely right, the one thing Doge could have done, they could have fixed the federal government's IT.
Which I was hoping for. I was really hoping for that. Maybe they still can.
That is one thing that needed to be done, still needs to be done, and they would have been good at that. But but that's
there was this really interesting story that didn't get much attention about Doge, but the person they put at the VA who came in there, he came from some sort of private sector background, and he was expecting to go in there and find this horrendous bureaucracy. And what he found out was that it's actually operating fairly efficiently, but what it needed was a sprucing up of the IT and some of the other HR components, and that's what they're doing. And the irony was they came in initially and tried to fire everybody, had to rehire people. It was chaotic. And so this is what Doge should have focused on.
I mean, one thing IT that they did do was hoover up all the personal information of millions of Americans. But Eugene, how much, Mr. Robinson, that there's no confusion, Mr. Robinson?
Sorry.
So he's leaving, Musk is leaving at the appointed time, but how much of his leaving do you think is also related to the reputational damage that has been done to his companies, particularly Tesla, not just here in the United States, but around the world?
I think that's massively involved in his decision to very publicly say, I'm stepping away, I'm going back to my companies. Look, this is a huge challenge. I mean, Tesla has taken an enormous hit. And one thing that will linger is it used to be like cool and a good thing. People felt good about owning a Tesla. I have neighbors and friends who have Teslas. They don't feel good about owning a Tesla anymore.
Do any of them
they're not going to get another one. So,
do any of them have that sort of Aliens to Ripley tank, the Cybertruck?
No, I don't know anybody who has what are they? The Cybertruck.
I do think, though, that the politics 101 of this, of Elon Musk could have come in and tried to do something very simple that made sense and just showcase it rather than just carnage. He missed that moment. I think now he is starting to get the politics of it a little more. Let's hear what he said on CBS this morning, because he is starting to try to distance himself from Trump as he needs to regain his business footing.
It's not like I agree with everything the administration does. It's difficult for me to bring that up in an interview because then it creates a bone of contention. So then I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
I mean, Sam, what it sounds like to me is, one, he doesn't want to go afoul of Donald Trump. But also, this is a man who has realized that it is often better to be an outside advisor and person who can call the president than someone who's like actually working with him and doing the work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Of course it is. It is a... I think he probably will look back in the decision to join the administration with some regret, obviously. But it was very evident from the get-go. I mean, remember early on they had that fight over visas where he was on the wrong side, and then Trump had to come over to his side, and then, clearly he was at odds with him on tariffs because there was fights between the cabinet officials and that, and then on DOGE there was cabinet official fights with Secretary Duffy and Rubio and him. Remember, Elon Musk is a foreigner who came over here, I believe, on a student visa, and now they are currently going after student visas. So, of course, there was always this incredible tension, but that's what you sign up for when you do this type of stuff. And so, I'm not surprised that he's speaking out now. I'm not sure how much of it is reputational versus how much of it is just like, I saw some stuff that I didn't really agree with, and now I feel a little bit unburdened by that.
What did he get out of it?
Plus, his rockets are blowing up. So there's like a kind of a crisis in SpaceX right now. I mean, there are questions about whether this really is the right rocket to go to the moon. Does it work?
One has questions like that.
Is it too big not to fail? I mean, there are serious physics questions about this rocket.
Mr. Robinson, and I guess in the little time that we have left, I'm going to ask you a complicated question. But in Elon Musk's experience in Washington, is this yet another example of the businessman who thinks he knows how to do everything, and if only you bring that mindset to Washington, you can reform Washington, bring Washington to heel, and
when did it start? Herbert Hoover? I mean, maybe even before that.
Do you think he's a modern Ross Perot?
Ross Perot, Rex Tillerson came in with the same idea at the State Department. It's like, we're going to run it like a business. Well, it's not a business. Right. It's the government. It's different. And it's a different skill set, it's a different knowledge base, different staff, but they learn eventually.
Ok, amigos, vamos por partes porque esto no solo es problemático, es hasta surrealista. Donald Trump no solo Trump, es toda la Casa Blanca, es cuestionada, ¿no? Directamente sobre si se conocía este supuesto consumo excesivo de drogas por parte de Musk, mientras estuvo en este rol en el gobierno. ¿Qué es lo que hacen? No lo niegan, no dicen me preocupa, no dicen si es cierto, ¿no? Simplemente dicen no lo sabíamos. Pero Elon Musk es fantástico. ¿Fantástico por qué? ¿Porque utilizaba drogas mientras se paseaba por la Casa Blanca? Ojo que esto no es cualquier acusación, amigos. El New York Times reportó que Musk usaba drogas de forma tan frecuente que le estaba afectando el cuerpo, que cargaba como una caja de 20 pastillas diarias, que lo mezclaba con ketamina y otros químicos. Se supone que esa es la persona que estaba liderando el departamento de eficiencia del gobierno. Ahora sé que algunos dirán, bueno, ¿y si tal vez era para uso médico y eso estaba prescrito? Y sí, Musk ha dicho que usa ketamina por temas de salud mental. Pero amigos, aquí la clave no es solo el consumo, es el contexto. Estamos hablando de alguien en un puesto de responsabilidad pública. Hablamos de alguien que tiene decisiones que impactan en millones de ciudadanos. Yo les pregunto, ¿en qué otro país una persona así no estaría al menos bajo investigación o mínimo, ¿no? Apartada del cargo mientras se aclaran las cosas? En lugar de eso, responden como si Musk fuese un influencer que ayudó con la campaña de marketing, no un funcionario con poder real sobre la estructura del gobierno. Amigos, lo que estamos viendo no solo es otro trumpismo, es una muestra muy clara del tipo de cultura, que se está fomentando en la Casa Blanca. Una donde el poder y el prestigio está por encima de la responsabilidad y la transparencia. Y ojo, que esto no solo afecta a Musk o a la administración de Trump, esto afecta a cómo entendemos la rendición de cuentas en política. Porque si se normaliza que alguien pueda liderar estructuras gubernamentales mientras está lidiando con un serio problema de consumo de sustancias, sin ningún tipo de control ni cuestionamiento, ¿qué sigue? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones. ¿Creen que Musk debió haber sido apartado inmediatamente tras estos reportes? ¿Les parece irresponsable la forma en la cual Trump ha respondido? Déjenme sus comentarios para que podamos entrar en debate. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Como siempre recuerda, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.